Hello everyone, welcome to Gigabytes Cafe here in Marietta, Georgia, just outside the city of Atlanta. Rich Hagon, Brian David-Marshall with you for Friday Night Countdown, the day after JC Tao of the United States won Pro Tour Oath of the Gatewatch with an amazing Eldrazi deck.
Yeah, Rich, we only get one Modern Pro Tour a year, and a couple of teams came in and showed us they really had the ability to break this format. And the new cards from Oath of the Gatewatch, they played a starring role.
They really did, but it wasn't just Modern. Limited was utterly transformed too. You see, the players, for the first time, were drafting 2 packs of the small set, Oath of the Gatewatch, and then 1 pack of Battle for Zendikar. It really shook things up.
It really did. We had 6 rounds of draft, we had 10 rounds of Modern, and that determined which players would be playing on Sunday in our top 8. Let's take a look.
The top 8 was truly a tale of 2 teams. Luis Scott Vargas, Shuhei Nakamura and Even Flock were all part of the 20-player strong collaboration between Channel Fireball and face-to-face games. Boasting 15 Pro Tour top 8s between them, all 3 had demolished the Modern field with their brand new colourless Eldrazi deck. Eldrazi Mimic, Matter Reshaper, Thought Not Seer, Reality Smasher. Oath of the Gatewatch really packed a modern punch for this trio of Team Titans. Pitted against them were a team of aspiring pros from all corners of North America. East-West Bowl put Andrew Brown, JC Tao and Pascal Menard into the top 8, and their take on the Eldrazi was truly inspirational, featuring cards like Eldrazi Skyspawner and Vile Aggregate that had rarely been seen outside draft decks.
Menard took a tried and tested route to the top 8, as did Germany's Patrick Dickmann. Both played affinity decks, carefully tuned to this new expected metagame. Dickmann was part of the Affinity Aficionados, a network of dedicated artifact slingers from around the world, quietly working on the margins of their respective teams to make the Robot Menace the best they could be.
To find a true best deck out of 10,000 cards is a great achievement, even as part of a super team. To find a best deck alone is simply amazing. In his very first Pro Tour, longtime Magic writer, streamer and community builder Frank Lepore found a third take on the mighty Eldrazi, using the Battle for Zendikar processor mechanic to great effect, ensuring that opponents always had a well-stocked exile zone.
But when the ground stopped shaking from one of the most powerful top 8s we've seen, even in Modern, JC Tao had done the extraordinary. First, it was Shuhei Nakamura. Then it was Luis Scott Vargas in the semifinals. Even Flock had made it to the final on the other side of the bracket, beating Frank Lepore and Patrick Dickmann along the way. But the blue-red Eldrazi deck of East-West Bowl was perfectly positioned, and JC Tao was the champion of Pro Tour Oath of the Gatewatch.
With Modern available at your local Friday Night Magic store and Grand Prix in Detroit, Bologna and Melbourne less than a month away, now's the time for you to take the oath and work out, how do I beat the Eldrazi menace?
Platinum Pro Jason Chung from New Zealand, he's going to be at Grand Prix Melbourne, and he came in exclusively for Friday Night Countdown to talk to us about his Blue Moon deck, a blue-red deck that he piloted to a 10th place finish at Pro Tour Oath of the Gatewatch. And he's already thinking about what he can do to make this deck even better against the Eldrazi. I'm here with Pro Tour Oath of the Gatewatch 10th place finisher Jason Chung, and we're talking about his Blue Moon deck for Modern. Jason, what was the inspiration for this deck?
Well, I tested with MTG Mint for this Pro Tour, and everyone knows Li Shitan is a big advocate for Blue Moon. He played it in Born of the Gods and top 8'd with it, and we had this in our gauntlet, and we were tuning it, and at first we didn't think it was that good because it could not beat the burn matchup, but last minute we managed to improve the deck and decided to play at the Pro Tour.
So we don't get a lot of cool deck names in Magic anymore. This is one of the cooler ones. What does when you call a deck Blue Moon, what does that mean? What are you trying to do?
It basically means it's a deck that has main deck Blood Moon, and Blue Moon just refers to all of the blue cards, the permission, the counter spells that support Blood Moon.
And then what's the biggest difference between this deck and Li Shitan's deck? Let's start over here with the Magic's first couple.
The biggest difference is Master of Waves was not a very good Magic card. The deck needs a finisher because when you have Blood Moon out, a lot of games go really long, and this card, Pia and Karinala, is one of the best cards to play post Blood Moon. It's really good against Affinity because of their Income of Nexus. It's really good against Infet for the same reason, and it's just good all around.
Snapcaster Mage has been a staple in Modern since Modern's been invented.
Yeah, playing a spell once is good. Playing it again is even better.
and you have a lot of cheap spells in this deck that you want to play. How about Batterskull?
So Batterskull was a late addition to the deck. Even though like the previous Blue Moon deck had it, we never had Batterskull in our deck for the longest time. And then we needed to solve the burn matchup, so we placed it in the sideboard. Then we play a lot of post-board games, and then we were discussing, oh, what do we bring in against this deck? Oh, Batterskull. What do you bring in against this deck? Batterskull. What do you bring in against this other deck? Batterskull. Why is it not just main deck?
Okay, and you even have more Batterskull in the sideboard still. Now, talk about Blood Moon. What decks does a main deck Blood Moon punish?
So a lot of players don't actually play around Blood Moon, especially game 1, and they will go for the greedy mana bases. The decks that punishes most is the decks that lack basic lands. Like even though a lot of decks would try and fetch a basic land because you have Blood Moon in your deck, a lot of them don't actually have access to basic lands. For example, Infet has no basic island in their deck.
Okay, and then they're just not able to enact their game plan, is what I'm guessing.
Yep, and also Modern is a lot about the man lands. Celestial Colonnade, Inkmoth Nexus, even Mutavault that we saw this weekend. Blood Moon just shuts it all down.
How does this deck fare against maybe the Eldrazi decks that have those fast mana lands, or Tron decks or something like that?
So I feel like the matchup is close to 50-50. There's a lot of decks that Eldrazi favor, but like my deck is one of the few that can actually like interact well with it. You want a Mana Leak Remand their Fortnite Seers, and a Blood Moon can really hurt them.
Okay, so now we've talked about the creatures, we've talked about the eponymous enchantment. Now, what about all the spells that we're using in this deck, many of which we're using twice?
So like we found Modern to be like a turn-free format, meaning turn 1 and 2 is really crucial. And there's a lot of matchups, for example, Burn, Infet, or Affinity. If you don't bolt their creature on turn 1, you're probably losing that game. So we found every game you had to draw Lightning Bolt. And then we're like, why don't we just play more? So we decided to also play Burst Lightning because Lightning Bolt was so important.
Yeah, that's not a card we see in a lot of Modern decks.
No, we were trying to figure out what should be our like second Lightning Bolt. We wanted like to try Fiery Impulse. We were trying Wild Slash, but like ultimately Burst Lightning's the best option.
Okay, Electrolyze, usually more seen in the blue, white, red decks or Splinter Twin decks, but an excellent Modern card.
Yeah, so originally our version had 4 electrolyzers, and we ultimately cut down to 3 like last minute because that card is just amazing against like everything that we were like testing against. So it was like good against Burn, but like amazing against Affinity, Infet, and any like Bird of Paradise deck. And it's actually really good against Eldrazi.
All right, talk to us about your counterspell suite. You have Spell Snare, Mana Leak, Remand, and Cryptic Command.
Going in, we thought Affinity would be the most popular deck, followed by Infet and Burn. Spell Snare is really amazing against all 3 of those decks, and against Affinity, it's your best card. We chose to play Remand and Mana Leak because Mana Leak is just so versatile, and you need to interact on turn 2. Modern is a really fast format, and Remand's just really good play right before Blood Moon. If you Remand their play and play Blood Moon, they can't replay their spell most of the time.
Okay, so if someone's thinking about taking this deck to their local Friday Night Magic, playing a little Modern, what advice do you have for them about playing the main deck, and what about how to play with the sideboard?
I think the most important thing is to just know your sequencing. So you need to know like against different matchups, you have to be playing a lot of Burn, being like really aggressively killing the creatures, whereas other matchups it's all about the Blood Moon, and you just want to land the Blood Moon as fast as possible.
All right, well, Jason Chung, this deck was good enough for a record that was tied for a top 8 finish. Finished just outside of the top 8, but maybe you can do a little bit better with it at your Friday Night Magic.
Now it's time on Friday Night Countdown to turn our attention to the limited format. And BDM, I guess the big headline is in some ways a small headline because it's all about Oath of the Gatewatch. The small set, we drafted 2 packs of that before we moved on to BFZ. That created a very different dynamic than we're used to.
Absolutely, because you have a smaller card pool, you see a lot of the commons more often than you would see it, let's say, in triple Battle for Zendikar. So you're really able to get a consistent archetype when you're drafting.
Right, Hall of Famer William Jensen, in one of the drafts we saw, ended up with 6 copies of Slip Through Space. Make it unblockable, draw a card. Make it unblockable, draw a card. And that's a great way to approach a draft, when you can do that just time after time. So great stuff. One of the things that Wizards do for us in these sets now, we get these gold uncommon cards, like Flayer Drone or Reflector Mage. What do we mean when we talk about signpost uncommons?
Well, you know what? These are cards that are really going to have an archetype that you want to play in Limited. So if, for example, I get a Jiraga Auxiliary passed to me, I have a pretty good idea that you don't want to be green-white. And maybe that means I want to be green-white. I want to go wide. I want to support my creatures. And, you know, it's just a great way to send signals and to receive signals in a draft.
Yeah, and also, if you get more or less one color sorted in pack 1, if everyone's doing that, by the time you hit pack 2, you might be the only drafter at the table that wants that Flayer Drone, that Reflector Mage, whatever it turns out to be. And so they also are really nice additions to your deck and reward you for being patient, which is a word we use a lot when we talk about drafting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, here's the thing. Let's go from multicolored to colorless, because hands up, I still don't know what I'm doing with the colorless cards. Am I meant to be picking the colored cards and the colorless activations high and then crossing my fingers to get the lands that are going to let me cast them? Or do I have to pick my lands first and then hope there are still cards that rely on them late in the pack? I just don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's really deck dependent, Rich, but you know, a lot of times you'll get a card like Gravity Negator. Right? It's a great card. It's a 2/3 flyer for 4 that you want to play just on its own, but it has a really good ability if you have access to colorless mana. The thing is, you don't necessarily want to eat into your colors. You maybe a waste might be almost like a 3rd color in your mana base. You really want a card like Unknown Shores or
Holdout Settlement, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. Holdout Settlement's a great option where you're not costing yourself a spot in your mana base for colors, but you're still able to get those colorless activations.
One of the best ways you can learn about a new draft format is with our draft viewer. And we had the top players on Saturday come in and work their way through every pick. You can sit down and look at every pick from every pack. BDM, you took it one stage further.
Yeah, I talked to each of those players. I asked them about their first pick and about what that meant as far as their draft going forward. All right, Jason, you sat down at the featured draft table. Tell me what your first pick was and then how your draft evolved from there.
So my first pack had Ruins of Oran Reef and also Expedition Raptor. I chose to pick the Reef because I feel like it's a more powerful card. However, I have a heavy preference towards white, and I feel like that shaped my draft quite a bit, and I should have picked the Raptor. After doing that, I realized that white was heavily open, so I went into white anyways from the right. And then the next pack, I got shafted a little bit in white because Mueller was in white. And then the last pack, I got like 12 playables in white. And I think I made Mueller's deck really bad.
Did the Ruins of Oran Reef make your deck?
It did not.
And is getting away from your... talk to me about the idea of getting away from your first pick if, not being too committed to it when you're in a draft.
I think getting away from your first pick is really important because you shouldn't feel attached to it, and it's really important to see what the person on your right is playing based on what they're passing you. So if you're sick of white card but no more white card comes, you shouldn't really fight over white in pack 2 because you know in pack 3 he's probably not shipping you white anymore.
Okay, so my first pick was Bursting Hulk. It was not a too difficult decision. I had 2 7-mana drops. I had Bursting Hulk and Glade Heart Cavalry to pick from. And Bursting Hulk is just easier to play and it does better on its own. And once I took that, I sort of felt like I could go into the more mid-range, like grindy game where I can slowly eke out advantages, incremental advantage. And when Huey passed me pack 1, pick 2, Balos, no, that was kind of, I was like, okay, I'll do that. Just slowly trade creatures, recur them back, eventually eke out a win.
And then what colors did you end up in overall for your deck?
I was in green, black, splashing in blue.
Sure. First pick was Isolation Zone. It's one of the best 2 common removal spells along with Oblivion Strike. After that, we tried to go Black-White Allies. I think it's one of the strongest archetypes in the format. I think we got a pretty decent deck. We picked up like Felidar Sovereign and a couple of lifelink, like the Cliffhaven Vampire, the 2/4 that whenever you gain life, they lose life. But there was a lot of like Eldrazi Sky Spawners that I was passing, so that was kind of awkward, and I had to pass an Exert Influence. A funny thing Melissa and I were talking about was if you can get the meandering this one I don't know the name of, the blue-white, the tap land, right? If you can get a couple of those in the Oath of the Gatewatch packs, you can actually try to splash Exert Influence, and I ended up opening an Exert Influence, and I had to pass it, and I was like, if I just took those blue-white lands, I could have actually splashed it, so that would have been kind of sweet. I think the deck turned out fine, though.
All right, Paulo, we can watch your entire draft in the draft viewer, but tell us what was going through your mind as you opened your first pack, made your first pick, and then how the draft played out.
Okay, so generally when I open my first pack, I try to just take the most powerful card. I don't like having color preferences, especially in this format. I think colors are very well balanced. Like in the previous format, maybe green was not so good, but now it's good, so I would just take whatever is best. And my first pack, I think, had a clear best card, which was Embodiment of Fury, which I took. I thought most people would take that in my spot. Then second pick, there is a Jorian Ruin Diver, which is one of the better cards in the set, I think. On power level, it's very, very strong, but it's 2 colors. So you don't want to commit to it too early. Sometimes you don't want to first pick it. The person to my right didn't want to first pick it. But since I already had a red card that was good, I think that decision was very easy. There was also a Storm Chaser Mage in the pack, and the pack was deep, not powerful, but deep. So I thought maybe it would will, which makes me more likely to want to take the Jorian now, and maybe will. I didn't, but the thought counts. And after taking the Jorian, I just took a red or blue card in every pack. There was never a moment in which I wanted to take a different card. So I don't think you should be married to your second pick, but I kept taking the best card, and they all happened to be blue or red until I was just committed in blue-red and just took blue-red cards forever. So it was very simple, actually.
I basically picked Boulder Salvo because I didn't see any blue and white cards, which is good. And afterwards, I wanted to play Red Green Devoid, same as yesterday, because I think this combination of colors is underdrafted. It went really well because I got Birthing Hulk on pick 2, if I recall, and afterwards I got just like 5 rares, and I'm just playing Red Green Bombs, and I'm really happy with the Red Green Devoid deck. I passed Linvala in pack 2 to the right because I really wanted to draft my deck instead of counter drafting. I think if you have a really good aggressive red-green Devoid deck, you can pass such a bomb, and I think it went really well.
Yeah, I actually had a pretty interesting first pick. It was either Grasp of Darkness, Jorian, or Storm Chaser Mage, and I mean, Grasp of Darkness is a stronger card, so I ended up taking that, and so I kind of wanted to go either black-green or black-white, but I ended up going black-red because I got past some more red removal, so that's how that went.
And what was the card that really pushed you into red?
Second pick, I picked Bolding Salvo, and then third pick, I got past a Spinal Contortion, so, I mean, it kind of leads you into like a black-red Devoid deck. I ended up getting another Bolding Salvo like 2 picks later, so I just kind of veered into that, keeping black maybe open, but then I got past some more black stuff, so that's how it went.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
My first pick of the draft was Jorian Ruin Diver, a 2/3 for 3. When you play your second spell each turn, draw a card. And from there, I was able to pick up a bunch of copies of Slip Through Space and sort of build a deck around him with a lot of Surge cards. I won a tough first match, really close against Martin Mueller, a great young player, and hopefully I can keep it up.
Yeah, I first picked Nissa, which is like a really strong card, and I really tried to make that happen, like try to play green, and green was reasonable open, so I think it was fine to stay in green for that card, but if green was being cut, I think I should move out. My draft went a little worse when I couldn't really find a second color, so after pack 1 I had a lot of green cards and like some white, some red, some black, some blue, so it was kind of split, and then in the pack 2 I first picked a blue card because that would I got a really late blue card that I could play, so that was like my favorite, and I passed the 4-mana enchantment that exiles a creature enchantment, and then I got past an Linvala, so and I knew white was getting cut from my right, so I was like, it was a really tough pick because like if my deck isn't going that well, I really want like bombs or have a chance to win anyway, so therefore I took the Linvala, but knew my pack 3 would be really bad for right.
We're here with assistant manager of Gigabytes Cafe, Will Blanks. He's also the in-house judge for their Magic tournaments. Will, tell me a little bit about your Friday Night Magic here at Gigabytes Cafe.
I'm glad you asked. We've got Standard going on. We have drafts, usually 2 to 3 every night. We have some Commander pods going on, and this is really exciting. Once a month, we do a sanctioned vintage tournament.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How's the attendance been for that so far?
We've only done 2 months, but first month we had 13. This month we had 17. We're hoping to break 20 next month. That would be really exciting.
Very exciting. Now, other than, what are the prizes like at Friday Night Magic here?
All right. So the way it works is no matter what you play in as far as Standard or Commander, you're going to walk away with something. So when a person enters, they're guaranteed at least 1 booster pack, and depending on how well they do, they can win additional booster packs depending on their standing. And we also have giveaways for various, usually Magic-themed merchandise, like the really awesome giant Garrick standee, the giant cardboard hedron, Magic lithographs, various things like that.
Very cool. Now, other than Friday Night Magic, do you run other Magic tournaments during the week?
It is our bread and butter. We've got Magic 6 days a week here at Gigabytes. On Mondays, we run competitive Standard, which has a higher entry than most of our other tournaments, but a better price support. On Tuesday, we run modern tournaments. On Wednesday, we run drafts. On Thursday, we run Legacy, which is really popular locally because we've got a good community, and a bunch of the fans actually run their own stream for it.
Oh, cool.
And on Saturday, we've started a new Commander League.
Oh, awesome. If you get a chance to play instead of work, which one do you like to play in?
I like Commander. It'd be easier for me to keep up with just because I don't have the time necessarily to dedicate to data formats. And I find it more interesting because, like, as a judge, I sort of enjoy those weird, oh my god, what's happening moments.
Okay, you're a confusion in the ranks kind of guy?
Yeah.
I could tell. All right, for Will Blanks, this is Brian David-Marshall from Gigabytes Cafe.
Our milestone moment here at Friday Night Countdown takes us back from 2016 all the way to 1996. It's the 20th anniversary of Pro Tour 1.
Yeah, we didn't even know if that first Pro Tour was going to happen. It was in New York. It was a terrible blizzard, but players wanted to play Magic at the highest level. They drove through a blizzard. They flew into airports. Everyone got there. And 20 years later, people are still coming to play at the Pro Tour.
Yeah, the players got to celebrate with cake in the venue, and we also brought Brian Kibler in to do a little Pro Tour 1 retrospective deck tech.
Yeah, he talked about his deck. The format for that event was Type 2, which is what Standard used to be called, and the players had to play with at least 5 cards from every set legal in the format. And with Homelands just being released, that was a little bit of a challenge. And he talked us through his deck, which had Abyssal Specters, Hypnotic Specters, 1 copy of Balance, and the Rack.
20 years is a long time, so it was amazing that we still had 5 players who were at that first Pro Tour with us here in Atlanta.
Yeah, we had a little celebration for the 20th anniversary, and John Finkel, Brian Kibler, Rob Doherty, Darwin Castle, and Justin Schneider were all in attendance at both that first Pro Tour in New York and this 20th anniversary Pro Tour here in Atlanta.
It's amazing to think how far we've come. Here's to another 20 years of the Magic the Gathering Pro Tour. Next up, it's Madrid and Shadows over Innistrad. But until we do meet again here on Friday Night Countdown, coming to you from Gigabytes Cafe in Marietta, Georgia, for Brian David-Marshall, I'm your host, Rich Hagan, saying bye.